So I'm joined today by Jeff from Digits, the CEO of Digits, and we're going to dive into a little bit more about your sort of quick rise in the marketplace, coming through, and the exciting journey what AI in accounting looks like. Because I think the exciting thing for me about you guys is that you're not an existing product where there's a bit of AI bolted on somewhere, because I think that's what most people are trying to do. But actually, it's AI centric, it's AI led. So give me a little bit more insight into that, bit of background, how things came about.
Yeah, so first of all, thanks so much for having me. Great to be here. I'm Jeff Seibert. I'm the founder and CEO of Digits. My whole life has been tech, so this is actually my third startup. And Digits really came from that journey. I sold my prior company to Twitter in 2013, became head of product at Twitter. And through that, I saw sort of the difference in data quality between product engineering and the finance side of businesses, both in the startup, sort of small business lens, and at Twitter, the large company size. And it killed me. It was like on the product engineering side, we have Google Analytics, we have A/B testing tools, we have all these live dashboards that tell us what our users are doing, what the servers are doing, et cetera, and they're all real time. And then on the finance side, I was waiting 3 weeks for a black and white P&L and balance sheet from our accountant. And so I was like, that's crazy, right? Like something's broken. And so after I left Twitter, I started thinking what to do next. And I kept getting obsessed with this problem and met with hundreds of accountants to just understand the space. And I very quickly realized it was not the people that were the problem. The people were awesome, very hardworking, very diligent, and they were being held back by just pretty atrocious software.
Yeah.
And so as a software startup guy, I was like, okay, great, we can fix that. And so that was really the start of this journey.
Okay. And one of the main stats that I was looking at, which is amazing. So I think you trained on over 875 billion pounds worth or dollars worth of transactions.
Yes.
First of all, like, where'd you get that?
Yep.
And secondly, it's like, what does that process look like in terms of when you're training on it? What does the volume of time take? But then I suppose, what does it actually mean for people now coming in and then using the product?
Yeah, really great. So we started Digits in 2018.
Yeah.
And in 2018, you might be thinking, well, AI wasn't a thing. Sure, machine learning was a thing. And as head of product at Twitter, I launched the algorithmic timeline, which was one of the first global deployments of machine learning technology. So I saw the power of it and how it worked. And I wanted to apply that to accounting. Of course, you need a data set to train models on. And so we got very lucky with timing, actually. COVID hit. And so right at the beginning of 2020, we launched our expense analysis tool. And the way it works is you plugged in your finances with QuickBooks or you upload them or whatever, and we would analyze all of your spend. Because at that stage, all these small businesses were really stressed about where do I cut spend and save to survive this and so on. And so we had this whole expense analysis dashboard, and it was free. And part of our agreement and the terms are like, hey, you give us the data and we will use this to train models to help you better understand your spend. And so that's where the original data set came from. And we kept building that over the years. And it's really, really valuable because we now have spent 6 years training domain specific AI bookkeeping models, truly ML models. These are not LLMs, they're predictive machine learning models. And so they basically memorize, they understand the whole financial activity of all of these businesses. And that's how we get really good at bookkeeping. And so today, Digits auto books 95+% of all transactions correctly. Yep. And so the accountants then can now focus their time on the 5%, the complex ones, the edge cases, the ones that are actually interesting and not the tedium that they used to be.
Yeah, because my understanding is that you're not sort of piggybacking off the back of other people, right, in terms of their LLM, in terms of you're building everything in-house right from the ground up. And what's the reasoning for that?
Yeah, so the big thing is all the foundation models that people talk about, those are generative models, right? Like GPT is a generative pre-trained transformer. Accounting is not a generative problem space. You don't want an LLM hallucinating your transactions, your chart of accounts, right? Like where it's booked, and they're not deterministic. So if an LLM books your transaction this month, it just might do a different thing next month, right?
Yeah.
That's terrible in accounting. And so we use a totally different architecture. We use deterministic machine learning models that are predictive. So basically, if Digits books the transaction correctly this month, it will book it the same way next month. And so that's how we build trust. To do that, you need your own model architecture. And so that's why it took 6 years to develop and build.
Okay. And one of the things I was looking at was some of the numbers that you guys are putting out there. So 95% of transactions are auto booked.
Yep.
What happens to the other 5?
Yes, great question. Everyone asks. They are automatically surfaced for you in the product. So you also, it's not like a needle in the haystack. You're there having to review everything and see what was wrong. The great thing about predictive ML models is they have confidence intervals.
Yeah.
And so we know when the model is confident, great, it books. And when the model is not confident, Great, we throw that out and we put it in your checklist in the product. And so then you and your team quickly review your checklist, go through, and as you book those things, it learns instantly. So the next month you'll have less to review and less and less and less. And now what we've seen is after, call it 6 months plus of data, you get very close to 100% accuracy because you've taught the model for that client.
Okay, perfect. So just to sort of bring it back a little bit then in terms of if we're looking at Digits compared to other products out there, so Xero, QuickBooks, MYOB,
Yep.
If somebody's saying to you, well, what's the difference? I'm on QuickBooks at the moment, right?
Yep.
Like, why would I move across and what difference is it going to make to my life?
Yep. It's really the automation and the accuracy of the automation. So as you mentioned, all of those players are trying to bolt on AI now.
Yeah.
The challenge they're seeing is that their data architecture is wrong. And so you look at those products and they are relational databases, right? Every transaction is a row in a database and it's text. If you book an Uber ride, QuickBooks just sees UBER, right? It doesn't know what Uber is.
Yeah.
This was the big decision we made all the way back in 2018. Digits is not a relational database. It is what's called a vector graph data model. Everything is an object. So your vendors, your customers, your bills, your invoices, Digits basically maps the relationships between them, and that's what the model trains on. So it's basically building a semantic knowledge graph of each business.
Yeah.
And because of that, you get this extreme accuracy, which then saves you a ton of time. And so accountants literally are saving 80+% of their total time per client per month. It's massive capacity savings for them. And so then they can take on more clients.
And I suppose off the back of that, though, you also have collective learnings in the background, right? So
Yes.
There's a requirement for that specific business in terms of their specific requirements, but you can take all of that learnings and bring that through that. So I suppose, is it a case of the longer the service goes on, the quicker you're going to be able to actually speed up how quickly you can sort of service somebody and get to know the business and the model works?
Yeah, so we train 3 tiers of models. And so you can picture them sort of like a layer cake. Our top tier is our company model or per client model. So that just trains on one business. We then have our firm model. We're the only player in the entire industry that offers firm level models. We train on the client base of a given accounting firm. And this is amazing for firms that bring on new clients because Digits will use the firm model to mimic your work across all your other clients.
Yeah.
And so it allows you to sort of give consistency and bring your special accounting best practices, expertise. If you focus on one industry or geography or whatever, it embeds that into the model. And then we have our global model, which is the massive one trained on all of that data. And that gives us vast coverage. But as you might appreciate, the tricky thing there is every business has a different chart of accounts.
Yeah.
And so how this business booked the transaction is going to be different than how you want to book it here. We built similarity models that then allow us to interpret the accounting. And so it's like, oh, we see how that was booked here. We can then translate that into your chart of accounts to book it correctly over here.
With talent shortages continuing to challenge firms, the .HQ helps your business scale through dedicated offshore professionals who work exclusively for you. From accounting and bookkeeping to audit and admin, Dot's offshore support gives you the capacity, consistency, and confidence to grow.
Yeah. Okay. And I think one of the things for me is one of the things we were just discussing before we started recording was you guys have brought on Craig Walker, who used to be at Xero.
Yep.
And when I was thinking back to Xero in terms of they went through that transition of being the underdog, it felt like the industry was moving from desktop to cloud. This is definitely another one of those transitions, and it's
Yep.
a case of, right, we're going from just being cloud-based systems to actually being AI and AI native. How do you think that sort of landscape looks over the next, I say even couple of years, 6 months even, but
Yeah, exactly.
in terms
It's
of,
fast.
yeah, are we going to see like swarms of firms all of a sudden saying, actually, I've got all my clients on things like QuickBooks and Xero, and we need to start shifting them across? Or how do you see things happening?
It is actively happening. So
Yeah.
you're right. It's a very fascinating sort of profession and dynamic because accountants have really only selected their ledger twice in history.
Yeah.
Right? They picked their desktop accounting software back in the early 90s. They picked their cloud provider, and now they're picking their AI native accounting platform. And we're seeing literally hundreds of firms moving tens of thousands of clients over. And because this is the moment, they're realizing that these legacy players haven't kept up and don't have the infrastructure to provide really accurate AI, and it's time to move their clients to a modern solution.
Yeah, perfect. So what are your thoughts in terms of what some of the other, and this isn't a bashing, this is just a general sort of discussion piece of some of the other platforms that are bringing in AI now? So Claude and things like that and
Yep.
plugging it in.
Yep.
What do you think in terms of, for somebody listening to this, if they think, well, actually, I'm with somebody already and they're going to be plugging in AI, so that's cool, that's fine, I don't need to do anything.
Yep.
What would you say to them in terms of, okay, like on the face of it, but actually, this is what you're going to be missing out on?
Yeah, so you're right. There's basically two options today. Either you move folks to a new solution,
Mhm.
or you sort of layer on, bolt on some AI tools right on top of your existing solution. And the challenge here, obviously, I am biased, but the challenge with that is I think it's economically infeasible because then you're paying for, call it QuickBooks or Xero, right? You're then paying for your AI tools on top. You're then paying to plug in Claude because you have to pay the token costs or the monthly fee if you have a membership, right? And all of those costs keep increasing. QuickBooks increased their prices this morning
Yeah.
by significantly.
Yeah.
And so that to me feels unsustainable for firms when you could just move your clients. And yes, it's going to be a month or 2 months of transition, but then they're on a new solution where it's all built in. And another sort of advantage to Digits is, again, we build and train and run our own models. There's no token costs you have to worry about, right? It's all just built into the price, and it's now cheaper than QuickBooks.
Yeah. Okay, perfect. So I understand that you guys have something called firm models.
Yes.
Tell me a little bit about that and what does that unlock?
Yeah, so that's the middle sort of layer in our layer cake. And so we are training our model on the entire client base of a firm, or for large firms, individual practice areas.
Yeah.
So if they have, like, this is our e-commerce practice, our nonprofit practice, et cetera, and that allows Digits to really well understand that firm's approaches to accounting, bookkeeping, their best practices, the patterns they use, and so on. And it drives consistency across the books.
Yeah.
And so one of the challenges firm face is obviously if they happen to have some staff turnover, you bring on someone new, they need to take time and understand, oh, what does this firm do? How do they book these journal entries, et cetera? Digits learns that and understands that and embeds that into the model. And so it is the product itself is driving consistency across your books.
Perfect. And within there as well, so part of the discussion I was having with a practice owner last night was how deep does some of this stuff go? So like, for example, one of the big things we've seen with AI is the front facing, do your bank rec really easily and you can sit back and have a cup of tea or glass of wine or whatever you want to do. But then how far does it go in terms of like, right, month end close, period end close, journals, all of this kind of stuff? Like from your side with Digits, like where does that process stop and start with AI?
So yeah, I fundamentally believe the role of the general ledger is to close the books, right? Historically, the GL has only really stored your data. It hasn't actually done any of the work. And you don't need a database. Like, I just want the tedium done. And so we've invested heavily on the bookkeeping, obviously. We have fully built AI reconciliation. So you email forward or upload the statement. We reconcile it to the pixel bounding box on the statement. You can just mouse over and see the transactions. The next step is all the accrual schedules, fixed assets, prepaids, et cetera. We spent a lot of work on that over the past 6 months, and Digits now fully automates those. We detect likely fixed assets. We draft the accrual schedule for you. You approve it, and the ledger manages all the underlying journals instantly, immediately. And so you're no longer dealing with your Excel workbooks and copying, pasting things over and so on. It's just all built into the ledger. The final piece we just launched last week is our quality review. And so Digits now runs tons of checks all across the books, looking for anomalies, looking for missing receipts or different issues with your transactions, and then surfaces those for your review. And you can literally send it right to your client, right from within the product, get their input or the missing receipt or whatever, and then it comes straight back in. And so it's all built into the ledger.
Okay, perfect.
Create capacity and scale with confidence through dedicated offshore professionals from the .HQ.
And in terms of that process, in terms of basically getting to know a firm, how they operate, how their bank of clients is going to be treated, and that whole process, if somebody's coming on to Digits, like what would you say that sort of time period is in terms of the investment from their side to really make it work, where they can start to sit back and maybe have a glass of wine?
Yeah. It's actually quite quick. And so we've given firms a ton of different ways to bring their client data on. Depends what ledger they're coming from and system, but it is honestly as fast as 5 minutes, and we just sync. And that allows you to basically start with a complete mirror of their prior system. And that's important because that's how the models train. And so once they learn the history, it takes about 6 months of data for our models to get really good. And so if you have a client with at least half a year of data coming on, Digits will be really strong from day one because it trains on that historical data. You don't need to wait and train it over the next few months. And if you don't have that, it's fine. It uses our global model and it'll give you a basic head start. And then after a few months of closing the books, it'll get really strong.
Yeah.
So yeah, we've onboarding is critical to me. I want people to feel the value within literally minutes.
Yeah.
And so that is totally possible.
That's perfect. And one of the things that I always hear about onboarding, and this is something that we've seen, especially switching between different cloud systems, what does that onboarding process look like in terms of historical data? So if you've got like 6, 12, 10 years of historical data, is that being pulled across? How does that work?
Yes. Unlimited historical data, unlimited complexity, unlimited sort of charts of accounts, hierarchy, depth, number, same with departments, locations, customer records, vendor records. It's interesting because I got this question actually a lot today at the conference.
Yeah.
And I realized people didn't understand. Before this, I was head of product at Twitter. Like the data scale that Twitter deals with is immense. And we architected Digits to deal with that scale. It's the same engineering team. Our engineers are from Twitter and Google and my prior companies. And so, of course, we built it to be high scale.
Yeah.
And I guess that's something other companies haven't done.
Yeah.
But it is. Yeah, we have companies on Digits doing millions of transactions a year.
Yeah. Perfect.
And it's super fast. Yeah.
Okay. No, that's super cool. And in terms of, so starting to zoom out a little bit, regions, where do you guys operate? Where can you and can you not sign up for this at the moment?
Yes. So today we are US only.
Yeah.
We've gotten a ton of requests to go international. And obviously Craig Walker from Xero joined our team. They are famous for being the international great accounting platform. It is on our roadmap. We won't get there this year, but it is something we're very interested in. So yeah, it's US only today. And then if you are dealing with small businesses, we go head to head with QuickBooks and Xero in the US market. The big things I'll call out we haven't built today.
Yeah.
The big one is inventory.
Okay.
And so we will look to partner with some of the big inventory providers. But other than that, Digits is a great solution for small businesses.
Perfect. Not going to hold you to this, but if you had to pick a region where you're going to go next, where do you think you'd go?
I can't say. I don't want to pick
Okay,
favorites.
fair
Yeah.
Okay, fair enough. So in terms of looking at the business, so as we know, in terms of your numbers, your accounts, all of that, people can get a little bit sort of freaky in terms of, where's my information, and the sort of trust that I'm putting in people, and especially accounting firms where they've got potentially a small bank of clients or a very large bank of clients. I suppose, what's the sort of comfort for them that Digits is not going anywhere quick? It's not like you're going to run out of money. It's not like it's just going to flitter away. And like, tell me a little bit more about, obviously you've given some of your background and some of the team, but a bit more about that in terms of Digits and what are the safeguards in place for them.
Yeah, so we have hundreds of accounting firms moving many, many thousands of clients over to Digits. And in terms of backing, we raised $100 million from Benchmark, Google, and SoftBank. So we have very strong world-class investors. We continue to have a ton of inbound investor interest. And so we are not going anywhere. I'll also call out, I sold my prior 2 tech startups. I have seen that movie. There's obviously benefits to it. There's also the negatives in that you sort of lose control of your baby. Yeah. We have no intention of that. Like, we are here for the long run to build this into a massive platform.
Most important question that Alex has been asking everybody, and I've just completely forgot. Obviously, we're in and amongst the World Cup at the moment.
Oh, yes.
Who are you rooting for to win, if anybody?
So awkwardly, I don't follow any sports at all.
Yeah.
So I have no idea. I will say naively, it'd be great if the US wins.
Yeah,
I feel like they're probably not that good.
Yeah, to be honest, you're not alone in that today. There's a general theme of the day of I don't really follow either football / soccer or sports, but I'm just going to pick one out there.
We have a Slack channel in our company Slack, and it's literally called Sports Ball.
Yeah.
Because it's like no one really pays attention. So
yeah.